Dan Illman, Mike Beer, the DRFBets race of the day for Sunday, November the 11th, race number 9 at Aqueduct. We're going 7 furlongs. It's the $125,000 New York Stallion Series, and you can bet this race and the Aqueduct Sunday card with a new DRFBets account. Sign up at bets.drf.com, receive a 300% deposit match. Here's the field for the New York Stallion Series. You get free formulator past performances when you head on over to the Race of the Day event page on DRF.com. Download them, handicap along with us. We'll take the field in post-position order, beginning with the number 1, Our Supernova. 50-1 on the morning line. She just beat 2 next out winners at Finger Lakes, but she was also listed as a vet scratch last month.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I mean, it's going to be a sort of a common theme as we go through this field. She looks like she's in tough here, but she's also underrated. She's pretty good. A filly who hasn't run that fast race that sort of makes you feel like she can really contend in here, but she's better than she looks on paper. She tends to show up and run every time, and I really think the cutback and distance is going to work for her in here.
One of the 2 horses that came back to win her from that most recent race was the 3rd place finisher. She won 2 in a row, including with a 77 Beyer speed figure. If this pace falls apart, maybe Our Supernova can get a piece. The 2 is Fair Regis, attracting Yoel Rosario. This horse last time out, first started off a short layoff, part of a fast pace, I thought. Might have paid the price. 5th place horse, the horse that finished directly in front of Fair Regis, was able to rebound and beat state-bred 2X horses with a 76 Beyer. Fair Regis has some figs and some speed, but there appears to be pace in this race.
Yeah, I mean, that's the problem with her. I mean, you can give her that excuse for her last race, but she's in another situation here with plenty of speed to her outside. She's a solid, hard-hitting kind of horse. It feels like in a field like this, she's going to need to catch some breaks to win, and she may not catch any breaks in here.
Aunt Babe may need a wet track to do her best running, and even then it might not be enough. It looks like she could get a wet track. She has run well at Aqueduct in the past, but she is a true one-run closer that, to me, just hasn't got much better this year at 3.
She's a closing sprinter who at times has been really up against dynamics in her races. You can go through her races 1 through 13, and you're not going to find a figure that makes her competitive in a race like this. She's just in really tough in here, but she's also in a spot here where the race should really set up for her, and she will be running at the end. Is she good enough to get at least a piece of it? I think that she might be, but she's going to need to run her best race and catch a setup.
She's been in some very tough fields lately as well. Last time out, that Special Relativity came back to run second in an open 2X with a 79 Beyer. Bluegrass Flag was part of the pace in the Empire Distaff at 86-1. Let's just draw a line through that race. She probably was simply overmatched. Her prior efforts at Laurel are good, and she was a stakes winner at the Big A at 2, but like Aunt Babe, I just don't see that improvement from 2 to 3 to 4, and I wonder if they've caught up with her.
Yeah, I mean, she really hasn't improved. It's interesting. The distaff last time, I guess she ran fine for what it was. That's too far for her. She doesn't really want to go that far. I just wonder when I look at her, and you're right that the improvement hasn't been there, but when are they going to go back to just sending her to the front in her races? I mean, that's why she was so successful early on. Kendrick Carmouche would take no prisoners with her. He would never concede the lead to anyone. He would put everybody in behind her, and she would actually run really good races, and they just stopped doing that for some reason. I know there's a lot of other speed in this race. The only way that she can win is if they send her.
Let's throw up the Timeform US pace projector, because the 4 Bluegrass Flag is up close to the pace, but not among the 3 early leaders. And her next door neighbor, the 5 Starlight Mission, whose only win from 13 lifetime starts came in gate-to-wire fashion, is even farther back. And if this situation works out for Starlight Mission, she might be in trouble, although she rallied almost successfully 2 starts back, but hasn't that been the story of her career almost? 13 starts, 6 seconds, 3/3. Last time out, at least, she was hounded by 2-3 other horses on the turn before giving it up in late stretch down towards the rail and finishing second. She goes out for Gary Contessa. I think she's better than she looks on paper. At a price, she's usable.
I agree with that. This is a horse I would certainly use underneath. They tried to change the tactics last time, and it didn't work. Her races 2 and 3 back, though, she was rallying both times and just came up short at the end. Is she good enough to beat this field? I don't know. Maybe she's not. I think she's the kind of horse who can get a piece of this.
I think Andesine, the 6, can also get a piece as well. Occasionally she runs well, and she really seems to like Aqueduct. Last time out at Belmont, again, that was that tough optional claiming condition. Open non-winners of 2 other than. I know the favorite kind of bombed that day and didn't fire, but Andesine didn't break, rushed up to contest the pace 3 wide, and finished evenly. And I think this is a major rider switch to Manny Franco.
Yeah, I agree with all those things. She's actually pretty good on her best day, and she can run from out of it too. I mean, if they get away from her early in this race, she will close at the end. And that's another horse. She's underrated, and her good race is going to give her a look at a piece in the end.
She's delightful, just won by 6. Is a perfect 2 for 2 at Aqueduct and is 30-1 on the morning line. My main concern is that field she beat last time out. It was an off-the-turf race, state-bred non-winners of 1, and I didn't think the competition was very strong.
Yeah, she would have had to fall down to lose that race. It was amazing to me, but once that race came off the turf, that she wasn't even favored in there. It was sort of ridiculous because you knew she was going to win when it came off the turf, and she did. Her other races, they make it look like she's in a little too tough here.
The big name in this race, though, the likely heavy favorite and the most likely winner is the number 8 Highway Star, who's earned $1.2 million in her career, is a multiple graded stakes winner, and just 8 days ago, I thought gave a pretty good run in the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint. She was 41-1. Jose Ortiz gave her a really nice ride, saved as much ground as possible. She had a look at it at about the 3/16 pole, and those horses are just a little bit better than she is right now. Here are some concerns. A, the Highway Star that we saw before the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint, while still probably better than these horses, might not be the one that we saw in 2017. Sure. And B, do you think there's a chance she kind of left it all on the track at Churchill 8 days ago?
I would be concerned about it, to be sure. You know, listen, to me anyway, she's clearly lost a step as a 5-year-old. She's not as good this year as she was last year. That being said, she's still pretty good. She's still better than these horses. I thought her Breeders' Cup race was just fine. You know, when you start picking apart her races, they've only won against New York Breds twice this year. She missed by a nose in the Critical Eye. She won the Iroquois 2-back. She beat Satisfy, who's better than anything she's facing today. Satisfy would be really tough in this race. So it just feels like coming back in with New York Breds, unless the quick turnaround and shipping out to Churchill and back, you know, really gets to her, she's going to be a handful in this race.
It gets chilly for the remainder of the field. Frost Wise, Frosty Ann, Frosty Margarita. We'll begin with Frost Wise, who is in good form to start off the year, second behind Blue Prize, who was in the Breeders' Cup Distaff as a fairly major contender in the Top Flight Invitational, and then just the wheels came off. Something must have happened in that Critical Eye, where she didn't fire against Holiday Disguise. She disappeared for a long time, and I guess the Empire Distaff, looking back, was a tough spot for the return. She cuts back to 7. What do you think of her at this distance? Is it a little short? She was successful at 6.5 in a maiden breaker last year.
You know, I always liked her more going shorter. 7 to 8 furlongs, I really felt like was really going to be her best instant. I know that she's run well at 9 furlongs a couple of times. I was surprised that she did as well going longer. I like her going shorter. She does have speed. You know, listen, if you look at her and say, as you said, something went wrong in the Critical Eye, she was off a layoff last time. I'm not going to be too hard on her for it. She's got races that make her really tough in here.
Frosty Ann has just really benefited from Rudy Rodriguez. She was always solid, but claimed last year for 25. For Rudy this year, 9 starts, 6 wins, 1 second, 1 third. She loves Aqueduct as well. But last time out in the Empire Distaff, was it simply a situation? That was a pretty good pace. She was wide out on the track because she gave it up pretty quickly.
Yeah, she didn't run very well last time. That's a concern. She might be a 2-turn horse. She's sprinted effectively in the past, but I do think she got better for Rudy when he stretched her out. And listen, she has a very admirable record at 13 for 32. She wins a lot. She also gets a lot of really soft trips. I know that she can be competitive in this race, Dan. I just didn't like her that much cutting back.
Rudy also has Frosty Margarita on the far outside. This horse really cut back in distance. Frosty Ann took her number 2 starts back, going 1 1/8, which might be a little far for Frosty Margarita. They cut her back to 6 at Finger Lakes. She was the beaten favorite. I think that field's a little bit better than you would think.
I agree.
When looking at Finger Lakes races. That runner-up came back to win. She has now won 3 out of her last 4 races. It'll be interesting to see what kind of trip Frosty Margarita gets, but she's honest enough. 15 of 32 in the exact.
Every once in a while, she'll show up and run a really good race. She's sort of inconsistent. You have to worry about that, but she'll be a big price in this race. She has races in the past where she got outrun early and closed at the end, so that kind of running style could really work for her. She's going to be a great price.
Pick time for our DRFBets Sunday race of the day. Highway Star is way the horse to beat. You just couldn't find anyone to beat her.
I mean, I don't really trust her in this race. If I had a super good idea, I would certainly be trying to beat her in this race. I'm not going to be running to the windows to bet her at a short price, but I just couldn't find anybody I really liked.
You're going 8, 3, 4, and 11. I have to use Highway Star, my second pick in this race, in any kind of multiple race wagers, obviously. But 2 horses that I might want to take a little bit of a swing against her with, maybe on the win end, maybe an exactas, an exotic. So the 5 Starlight Mission, who I think will revert to those rallying tactics of 2 and 3 back, and the 6 And Decine, who I thought ran well and gets a nice rider switch for Chris Engelhart. So I'm going to go 5, 8, and 6 and probably use all three in some form in the multiple race wagers. Again, you can bet this card with a DRFBets account and the 300% deposit match that goes along with it. It's easy. Sign up at bets.drf.com. An approximate post time for the New York Stallion Series is 4:17 Eastern on Sunday. Best of luck.